The second thing is in crafting your message. Obviously, try not to be too spammy. Things that you don't appreciate from a brand is probably something that your consumers will not appreciate from you.
Hey guys, so we have the Joshua Chin. Here, the email marketing specialist. Joshua handles many high volume e-commerce stores and handles basically the email marketing for them. That's kind of the holy grail if you want to be profitable with e-commerce long term. If you want to build a brand, if you want to increase your profitability, you should definitely use email marketing. And if you're looking for top people in the space for this area of expertise, Joshua is your guy. So Josh, very happy to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Cool. So I wanted to ask you some questions. What are the main kind of mistakes you're seeing that people are making with their email marketing? For example, people who already even have the traction of their e-commerce businesses, but what kind of the main mistakes they're making with email marketing?
Sure. Main mistakes, I would say, first, not doing email marketing at all. That's a big one. I'm so surprised at how many clients come to us with they're doing 100K and some even $1 million a month without even doing email marketing, and that's insane. That's leaving a lot of money on the table. But if you are already doing email marketing, something that you might be missing out on is hyper-targeted segmentations. Now, breaking down your audience into chunks of people that you can then personalize to. For example, if you serve moms and dads, splitting those two groups up, that's going to be very useful for your targeting, what kind of messaging you want to use. And obviously, if you are sending me a message that relates to me and my personal life right now at this point in time, I'm going to respond much more favorably as compared to if you send me, for example, something that I don't care about, I don't know, women's dress.
Just some blasted, right? Just one template.
So one and done. That's not a way to do it. Yeah.
Cool. So basically, segmentation, segmenting people. For example, if you're selling different products, right? Would that be kind of putting people in different categories, right?
Correct. Different categories, different offers, and different messaging.
And so Klaviyo allows you to kind of do that easily.
Correct. So we use Klaviyo, but most other tools allow you to do the same thing. So it really is no excuse that you're not doing this, and it basically categorizes people based on their actions, their behaviors, what their profile is like, and you can even create custom properties based on whatever presets you want them to have.
Yeah. Cool, awesome. And so in terms of the sequences, right, major automation sequences that people can set up for their for their businesses, what are the major sequences you would set up?
If you're short on time, here are the top 3 sequences I would prioritize. A customer acquisition sequence that is tied to a lead gen pop-up or slide in or whatever it is. So that's a welcome series. Number 2 would be cart abandonment. Try your best not to use an app. Do it yourself.
Okay, so you mean not to use an app? You mean a different
not like a default one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. From Shopify, for example, they have these default. Do not use those.
Don't use those. Try and customize those. And the reason for that is because a tiny tweak and tiny improvement in that flow will give you huge, massive differences in conversions. And we have seen that ourselves. So you should be aiming for anywhere from 15 to up to 20% of abandonment recovery. So 15 to 20% of people who abandon your cart should be coming back to make the purchase based on that Klaviyo flow itself. So that's number 2. Number 3 would be the post-purchase flow. Now, the upsells and the cross-sells will happen after they make a purchase. The idea of it is to time it properly so that they only get an upsell or a cross-sell only after they receive their product in the first place. We find that that's extremely useful. The post-purchase sequence not just creates extra value from the customers, but it builds a relationship with them for the long term. Especially if you are planning to build a long-term business and not just a pump and dump kind of thing. It's definitely useful. So top 3 right there. Yeah.
Cool. And in terms of emailing your lists, right? So how often do you see the sweet spot in terms of, or would that depend greatly on the brand and the niche?
I would say as much as humanly reasonable. As much as humanly reasonable. But it doesn't mean that you have to be emailing every day. I know some brands do it really well by emailing every day. But if you have nothing good to say, the rule of thumb is if you have nothing good to say, no good content, that's fine. Just don't. That's why automations play a huge part in our client's strategy. Because automations are based on behaviors and they respond to certain changes in the customer's interaction with your brand. It's not really reacting or being too pushy with your sales or promotions. Automations happen only when it's the right time. And for that reason, a customer might be receiving up to 10 emails a week, and they're okay with that, right? Because it's the right emails, right content at the right time. With campaigns, however, it's a sweet spot about between 3 to 4 per week. But if you don't have the resources to do that, if you're short on time, do it at least once a week. Keep people engaged. That's the most important part. Yeah.
Cool, awesome. And in terms of deliverability, right? What would be your main kind of like tips or like strategies that people can utilize?
Right. So deliverability, it all ties in back to what we talked about: segmentations, building automations. So the whole idea is to make sure that people who don't want to be receiving your emails are not receiving your emails.
Oh, okay.
That's number one, right? So
I think a lot of people like, oh, okay, if I send like emails, people unsubscribe. So probably unsubscribing is not that bad, right? If people actually unsubscribe.
It's good, yeah. It's a good thing. Yeah, exactly right. So unsubscribe rates are, if people are unsubscribing from your email list, that's okay. They maybe moved on to a different phase in life. They don't need your brand anymore. And that's okay, right? You want people who genuinely want to be on your list to be there. And the second thing is in crafting your message. Obviously, try not to be too spammy. Things that you don't appreciate from a brand is probably something that your consumers will not appreciate from you. And it often boils down to common sense, but sometimes it's not as common as we may think. So, some rule of thumb, making sure that you don't trigger any of the of spam trigger words. So if you're curious as to what that means, you can just Google. There's a bunch of lists out there. Spam triggering words. These are just words that you shouldn't be using in your subject line. It's high risk, and ESPs typically look at it and say, this is a bad sender. So that's what you look for. And monitor your open rates.
And in terms of like building your email list, have you seen, for example, strategies like giveaways or any other strategies that, for example, you could, grow your email list at a profit? Right. Is that like still doable? Have you seen anything like that done?
Yes, actually, it's very interesting, but it varies from brand to brand. So you might want to test it out. I don't have a very vast amount of data to back me up on this, but I can give you an example. One brand that we worked with for quite a long time, actually. They are a beauty and supplements brand targeted at females, in probably around 25 to 45 of age, and approximately there. We ran a giveaway campaign, and we haven't ran ads to that landing page that was meant for an email capture, not a conversion. But as a result of that, CPMs were insanely low. CPCs were insanely low. So it gave us a huge list that we could work with, who were genuinely interested in the brand, not necessarily ready to purchase yet, but that there's that interest, which we can then convert further down the line, right? Because if you think about, I'm not sure if people are familiar with the sales qualification framework, BANT, B-A-N-T. That's a very useful thing to look at: budget, authority, need, and time. So budget is obviously if the buyers have the budget to make that purchase. Authority is, do they have to consult someone? Do they have to ask their parents or spouse? Need is, does it actually solve a problem for them? Timing is it the right time for me?
That's a good framework to think about it.
That's awesome, right? So based on that, you might be missing one or two things, but the giveaway captures people who meets at least one or two. So you can then further convert them down the line. So it works.
Awesome, awesome. So, and in terms of the major, like for example, for cart abandonment, are there any special things that people can do to increase the efficiency of it? Like for example, discounts, like any kind of like, is like discount progression, is that something like kind of like the best practice, or have you seen something else working out well?
Right. It depends on what your brand stands for and what you've done historically. Discounts work very well if you have been giving discounts to people. But what we have found is with some of the brands that we work with, giving no discount works pretty well as well in email number one. So firstly, obviously, it retains your profit margin. And secondly, it retains your brand value or perceived brand value. And we only give a discount very further down the line when they are still engaged with your brand, but they haven't yet made the purchase, then they get a discount. But if your brand relies on discounts or pricing, a discount ladder is definitely a good idea. So that's strategy. A tactic would be in email number one, in your cart abandonment sequence. I found that using a text-based email works relatively well.
No images.
No images.
Oh, okay.
Only one link. Pure text addressed from your customer support officer or the founder saying, hey, I saw you added this product to cart. My system is telling me that you didn't complete your checkout. Do you need help? And that's it.
Okay.
Sometimes you don't even need a discount code.
Okay. And so you have like a question mark so they can reply if needed?
Exactly. So your support team should be ready to support them with that.
That's good.
And yeah, you can even link that up to your help desk. We use Gorgeous with some of our clients. It's great. If you have Zendesk, that's fine too. So yeah, the idea is to create that interaction, that engagement that often goes beyond just a one-way thing.
Okay. And so if people reply, that also raises kind of like your deliverability as well?
Yes, massively. So what that does is once you have incredible deliverability for your first email, every other email following that will have amazing open rates as well. So you can go a little bit more aggressive down the line.
Yeah, that's amazing tip. That's amazing tip. Cool. So how do people find you? So if people want to like learn more about your services, do you have like any kind of like training materials, or you mostly offer like done for you service? Like how is that?
So right now we offer mainly done for you services, but next year in Q1 we're going to be pushing out something, cooking out something in the mix, a training program that's going to be a good fit for people who are just either starting out or you want to do it yourself. But yeah, for now it's just done for you. You can reach out to me on Facebook.
Okay, so how do people find you? So you just Joshua, Chin, right?
Yep.
So just find Joshua on Facebook, reach out to him.
Facebook's
and
good,
just see, if you need any help with email marketing. So Joshua handles like, Steve Tan, even Tan, like, Angus Kong, like they run like huge stores. So Joshua is actually the guy who's running their, email marketing. And so also other, big like 7-8 figure stores. So definitely he's the guy, like he's been in space for a long time. He knows, he's actual practitioner. He does it. He's very passionate about it, and highly recommend, if you're looking for help with your email marketing, reach out to Josh. So we'll probably include the link also like to Joshua's profile. So get in touch with him.
Absolutely.
And So thank you, Joshua, for sharing these insights. I think even like that one with like cart abandonment, just have a question in there.
Yeah.
It's a big one. It's like if you get your cart abandonment like to deliver, then it
snowballs. Snowballs.
Good one. So,
awesome.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next video.